Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. I'm Mickey Feldman-Simon. I'm the founder of I'm Back at Work, and I want to thank you for joining our webinar here today, and I hope you join us in the future or watch some of our on-demand webinars. I'm excited to have Kimberly Wittenberg here with us today, and she will be talking with you how to write and teaching you how to write a killer cover letter. She has got a lot of her experience to share with us today, and I'm very excited to have you join us and hear everything that she has to say. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you can navigate your webinar panel. And your webinar panel may look like the image on the right, where it is closed up, or the image on the left, where it is expanded. And to open or close it, you just click on the orange arrow, and that will open or close the panel. And if the webinar panel is now obstructing your view of the PowerPoint, you can just move it out of the way by clicking anywhere at the top of the panel. Just click and drag it out of the way. In the last 5 minutes of the webinar, we will have a Q&A section. And to answer questions, just click on the questions bar and then type in your questions in the blue rectangle underneath, and we will answer any of your questions at the end of the webinar. Now I'm going to turn my video camera off so that you can concentrate on the presentation and pass it over to Kimberly. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks, Mickey. Hi, I'm Kimberly Wittenberg. I know how hard it is to write and speak about ourselves. It can make us feel vulnerable and nervous. 4 years ago, I began teaching business writing courses and career launch courses to college students. I realized the ability to write and speak about ourselves was not always intuitive and could be mastered with practice. I co-founded Tearless Writing to help people showcase their experience, skills, and value. Whether you're writing a college admissions essay, updating or tailoring a resume, drafting a cover letter, creating a LinkedIn profile, or preparing for an interview, Tearless Writing can help. Goal-oriented guidance helps clients focus on the steps they need to take for the results they want while minimizing stress and building confidence. While creating a resume is hard, people are often paralyzed by the thought of writing a cover letter. I get asked regularly, why is writing a cover letter so hard? What should I say? What is the proper tone? Do I really need to customize every cover letter? Well, my goal today is to create a practical guide to help you write an effective cover letter. There are 4 important reasons to write a cover letter when you're applying for a job. A cover letter is your opportunity to demonstrate your interest in a job or company. Specifics are key. Show your knowledge and genuine interest. Number 2, attracting attention. A well-written cover letter can attract the attention of a recruiter or hiring manager. The details you include in a tailored cover letter can set you apart from other candidates. Companies can tell if you are writing a generic cover letter and appreciate a targeted cover letter that actually gives important information. Number 3, highlighting relevant skills. A cover letter is your opportunity to do this and make it relate to the position. This is where you add details beyond what is in your resume. Now, the fourth one, which in some ways I think is the most important, is that a cover letter is your chance to show a potential employer that you write well and have strong communication skills. Your cover letter must always be well written and well edited. Is an optional cover letter really optional? The answer to this is it's never optional. You should always write one. I would encourage every job seeker to write a cover letter when it is optional. Taking a pass on writing a cover letter means you are missing an opportunity to show interest in the position, explain why you're a good fit for the position, and demonstrate your writing skills. The next question is, do I really need to customize every cover letter I send out? Yes. There are things to consider when you're customizing a cover letter. And one of the things I really think is important is before you apply for a job or write a cover letter, research the position. Really understand what the position is about. This comes from a job posting. This comes from looking at people on LinkedIn who hold similar jobs. That's one important piece. Another important piece is researching the company. Know what the company does, who's at the company, what's their mission, understand the company. And then research the industry. You may already be in the industry or have been in the industry, but industries change over time. So understand what's going on. The next question I get is, that's a lot of information to have to compile for a cover letter. Where do I get all this information? Well, one great place to get it is the actual job posting. If it's not a blind job posting and it's clear what company is hiring, the job posting will often give you some information. You can look at news articles, press releases, annual and quarterly reports. Look at the company's website. Look at their competitors' websites. Look at current news articles, business journals. This is a change of career for you, or you're getting back into a particular industry, you want to make sure that your information is very current and know where the company you're applying to fits into the industry. For instance, are they a leader in the industry? Are they a startup? Or are they playing catch up? Know the key competitors. Consider whether the company is in a growth outlook, where they are in the industry. For instance, coal industry might be waning in terms of its role, whereas solar seems to be on the upswing. So have a real picture of what's going on in the industry. The first thing I like to do when I see a job posting is I print out a hard copy of it. And then what I do is I highlight it. Okay, I go through and I look at what the skills are and the experience and the education and soft skills required. And then what I like to do is I like to create a table. And on the left side, I write the job requirements that are listed in the posting. And I include things like experience, skills, education, soft skills. Skills can be software, fluency in languages, certifications, licensures. Experience can be actual work experience or volunteer experience. Education can be formal classroom experience, degrees, online learning. And then you have soft skills. Those are the skills that really aren't taught, you just kind of learn along the way in life. Things like leadership, communication, teamwork, maybe even creating budgets. These skills can overlap, but what's key is finding the format that works for you. But once again, what I think is important when you create the table is on the left side, you have the job requirements from the job posting. And on the right side, you give the evidence of your qualifications for that skill or education. Now, something to keep in mind is you don't have to have every skill listed in the job or every piece. You want to have a good bit of it, and you want to emphasize what you do have and not what you don't have. But it doesn't mean you can't apply for a job because you don't have every single skill. So I'm going to keep going. So what I decided to do is I found a job posting, and then I sort of tried to make it a little more neutral. And what I want to do is I want you to take a minute and I want you to read this over. And if you have a second, jot down what you think the requirements of the job are, or things that you would want to highlight if this was an appropriate job for you, that you'd want to link to your experience. So look at this page and see what skills you'd want to pull out. When I looked at this, I picked an account executive job with the reference number 10001. I saw the desired skills. I saw time management, sales experience, upselling, and e-commerce. I saw you were part of an advertising team. They're looking for a dynamic group. They're looking for someone to bridge marketing tech and advertising tech, a full funnel solution. So if you have any of this experience, you want to think about how you can where they meet, where the qualifications and your experience overlap. Let's look at the next section of the job posting. This is the actual job responsibilities. Take a second to read that, and then we'll see what we pull out. So for this one, I highlighted prospect outreach and develop relationships. The importance of being familiar with advertising companies or advertising agencies, familiarity with phone, email, social media, the importance of maintaining strong, active relationships with client stakeholders at different levels, senior and mid-management levels, the importance of pipeline of prospects, full sales cycle experience, exceed sales goals, collaborative member of a team. Those were the things that I pulled out that if you had experience, those are things you'd want to highlight. Now, as far as actual job qualifications, this gets very specific. So take a second and look through these. So this is looking for 3 years of sales experience and ideally 2 years of digital media sales experience. Now, ideally means that that's not quite as important, but that would be an added bonus. They're looking for you to have a bachelor's of arts or a bachelor of science degree in business or a related field. I mean, that could be economics, that could be, it could be a lot of different things. And if it's not as close to business as you might like, you have to help make that connection. They're looking for driving revenue through prospecting, creating new business, growing existing business. If you have experience doing any of these things, you're going to want to highlight that sort of information. Now, this continues to talk about the different qualifications for the job that they want or the different requirements. And as I look through these, I'm just going to go to the highlighted one. These are what I call soft skills largely. Work well independently, under pressure, highly responsive to clients, customer-centric, time management skills, prioritization skills, excellent listening, negotiation, presentation. These are all soft skills. And if you've developed these outside of the workforce, if you've been home and you've been on on a nonprofit board, or you've been volunteering at your place of worship or on a PTSO, a PTA, and you built these skills by working with different stakeholders and working under pressure, these are things you can highlight even if they're not directly related to a sales position. But if you have these soft skills, they're important because employers can train you at a job, but a lot of these skills can't be taught. You have them or you don't. So if you have them, you definitely want to highlight them. Now, I think this part is interesting because this is the job posting that talks about the company description. And this is a really good starting point when you're trying to figure out your cover letter and how to deal with it. This one gives you information, and I'm just going to go to my highlighted version, but it talks about the fact this company was founded in 2017 with offices worldwide. It talks about the fact that they used advanced data analysis, customer segmentation, display ads, on-site optimization, full service account management. So what I'm getting from this first paragraph or two is that this is largely a very fast-growing startup in the technology area. And they're interested in people who are dynamic and flexible and ready to hit the ground running. Okay. Now, I highlighted in green something I thought that was interesting when you're thinking about the tone you want to take in your cover letter. And I didn't write this. This is an actual job posting, so companies do include information like this. It involves new and exciting projects. Doesn't mean we don't know how to have fun. Snacks and kegs, office parties and charity events, what more could you want? That's a very casual tone for a job posting. It makes me think that it's a younger workforce, which doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but you definitely you want to be careful of your tone if this is a job you're interested in, because it sounds like they work hard and they play hard. And so you want to make sure you're getting across, you don't want to be robotic, and we'll talk more about that in your cover letter. You want to be clear and focused, but definitely show that you're a good fit, okay? So let's get started on the cover letter and let's really think about it. Before we even start writing, I mentioned audience already. Who reads your cover letter? Well, hopefully a hiring manager or a hiring team, or maybe a recruiter or human resource professional. So you want to figure out the right tone. The one we just looked at seemed kind of casual. That doesn't mean you use slang. It just means you want to not be overly stuffy or sound outdated. You want to show you understand the corporate culture. And the place you get that information is the website will set the tone, and your job posting will set the tone. Looking at some of their marketing materials online, if such a thing exists, that will help you figure out the tone. Now, when you're thinking about who, we talked about audience, ideally, it's great to be able to target your hiring manager and have an actual name. Now, if someone, a friend of yours or someone you know referred you to the job, you can ask who the hiring manager is or who's making the hiring decisions, and that's how you address it. Sometimes you can figure out, sometimes it's listed in the job posting, sometimes you can research it on LinkedIn. You can locate connections within the company on LinkedIn and see if there's people you know or people you know people who work there, and try to figure out who the hiring manager is, because it's really great to be able to send it to the actual name. You can also just call and ask, and sometimes they'll give the information out and sometimes they won't. Now, I want to be really clear about this. If you don't know who the hiring manager is, please write the cover letter anyway. It's okay to not know. Ideally, it's better to know, but it doesn't end the importance of doing it. Don't let this minor obstacle stop you from showcasing your skills. Now, if in fact you can't find the name of the person hiring, I encourage you to say, "Dear hiring manager," or "Dear hiring team." I don't like the use of "to whom it may concern." I find that an outdated and sort of robotic term, so try to stay away from that. A well-written cover letter has 3 components. It has a heading, 3 complete paragraphs, and a closing. A well-written cover letter should be on 1 page and no more. If you're going on to 2 pages, you've written too long of a cover letter, and you've got to look at, are you being clear and concise enough? So let's look at these components. The heading. I recommend using the same heading you use on your resume. The same template for the top. And the reason I say do that, if it works for you, it's not required, but I do suggest it because it gives the address, it gives your phone number, and it gives your email. And it's very easy to locate you. Okay. Otherwise, you're sort of putting all that information after your name, and there's stuff everywhere. So I think that this is a really professional way to do it. The next thing you want to do is, obviously, for a formal business letter, cover letter, is you want to put the current date in, and then you want to put the person who's hiring, if you have that name, or you can say hiring manager, what their title is, the company name, and the address. Now, something I always do is I put in an RE colon, okay? It's a subject, and I say exactly what the position is, account executive position, and I even put the reference number, because often companies are hiring for more than one position, and you want to make it really clear what position you're going for. Now, some people might say, oh, well, I could be going for multiple positions, then write multiple cover letters. You don't want them to have to try to figure out where to put you, because they won't spend the time on it. They're busy. They're not going to try to figure out where you're a good fit. If you're a good fit, that's the job you apply for. And then you put "Dear hiring manager" or "Dear whoever the person is." So that's the format for your heading. Paragraph 1. This is the opening paragraph, and I'm going to break this down so briefly. I want you to look at the introductory sentence, how you start the very first paragraph. You do it with a brief introduction. We'll talk about what that looks like. The name of the company, the name of the specific position, and where you heard about the job. That can all often be put in the first sentence or 2. The brief introduction can look like things like, I read with interest, I'm applying for, please consider me for, I am interested in applying, I may be an untraditional candidate for XYZ, but here's why I'm a great candidate, okay? I personally don't like robotic writing. So I am writing to express my interest in the position posted. That sounds very automated or robotic. You want to avoid that. And some of my examples have that text because it is often what people use. But I encourage you to read something like, I read with interest, I'm applying for. Some people will say things like, I'm so excited to apply. I am hesitant to do that because it often leaves you sounding inauthentic. I think it's better to express your interest and your excitement through the way you write and share your experience. I think that's a better way to do it. I mentioned robotic and how I'm concerned about sounding too formal. Things that sound too formal are when you say dear sirs or dear sir or madame. Those are very old forms of doing it. And I would also hesitate to say to whom it may concern. That's also an older form. You want to use more dear hiring manager, dear hiring team. When you're writing your cover letter, you want to use first person. You want to talk about you. So I read with interest. You don't want to say Kimberly Wittenberg Lurie reads with interest XYZ. It sounds strange. You're writing it, it's your opinion. The fact that you're applying is expressing your interest in the job. So keep that in mind and use first person, the I voice, when you're doing a cover letter. Another thing I want to suggest is avoid empty phrases, like your strength is thinking outside the box or being a team player. If you think outside the box, there's better ways to say that, and always with an example. In this paragraph, this first paragraph, which we're still on, you're going to state why you are applying for this position and why you think you're a good fit. Or you can mention a prior experience or a particular skill. Remember to mention the experience or skill very generally. You will expand this idea in paragraph 2. Remember, the key to this is keeping it really simple and being clear and authentic. Here are some examples of how openings were used. I'm not going to read the full things, but I'm very interested in the entry-level position at ABC Company. I recently graduated from XYZ College, and my courses give me a solid foundation. So in the entry-level position, I would actually list the position because you've got the company name in the position, and then you recently graduated, so that's giving a general idea of why you're applying for this job. Now, the next one going down, I'm writing to express my interest. I think that's a little formal. In the healthcare marketing position at this company, my colleague Jane Doe recommended that I contact you. Now, if you have a contact that suggested you apply for the job, you want to put that really upfront in the cover letter, much like this one did, because it's likely that the hiring manager will go check with Jane Doe to find out how they know you, what the story is. And that's an in, and you want to definitely put that up. The next one at the top on the right-hand side, and throwing out there, I'm an analyst with a long record of successfully completing complex business analysis for multiple companies. This experience has prepared me to be the ideal candidate for this job at this company advertised here. So within 2 sentences, you sort of hit all the things you want to hit. The next one is similar, and it talks with where the job posting was. In the New York Times, the Time Magazine. I was inspired to seek employment opportunities with X company. So, and it mentions the job also. So within a sentence or 2, you see that you're getting out that key information for the first paragraph. Paragraph 2. When you think about paragraph 2, this is where you're going to move from your resume to your cover letter. You're going to really expand information in your cover letter. You're not going to just reiterate or retell your resume. So this is where you go back to that table I talked about, the job qualifications and the jobs, the skills you have that match up with that posting. So you want to mesh those. You want to, if there's a skill they want, you want to really highlight that. One of the reasons you want to include the exact language from the job posting is that many companies use something called ATS, which is Applicant Tracking Systems. They use it for cover letters as well as resumes. You want to use keywords so your resume and cover letter aren't overlooked. And that's why you want to look at the posting and then highlight your accomplishments. I'm going to give you an example how to do this. As my resume demonstrates, I have 7 years as an account executive in the marketing department of a small startup. I was responsible for outreach, and I developed new relationships with advertising agencies. As part of a team, I collaborated with others and exceeded sale goals and quarterly revenue targets. I am able to work independently and generate leads via phone, email, and other social media outlets. Okay, this particular example that I just read to you highlights skills and knowledge from a resume, as well as soft skills without repeating the resume. The second paragraph has another purpose if necessary, and it's your chance to explain time gaps in your resume. You know, if you took time off to take care of a child or a parent, or you were laid off, or whatever the reason is, you can explain that in that second paragraph. The one thing I want to say is, for whatever reason you took time off, whether it was your choice or a company shutting down or whatever the story is, you make no apologies. You just state it in an unapologetic way. An example is, 1 year ago, my startup closed its doors and I decided to use my time to strengthen my technology skills. Another way to do it is, after stepping away from the workforce to raise my family, I am looking forward to resuming my professional career now that my children are in school. I have continued to develop my skills and connections through volunteer work, including leadership roles in both school and nonprofit organizations. So here, there's no apology being made. There's just an explanation being given, and that's something to really think about. In the second paragraph, you're highlighting your accomplishments. I want you to use testimonials if possible, or specific numbers. If you have a customer previously who thought very highly of you, and you can include that quote, or if you have specific numbers where you exceeded a quarterly number, or you were an outstanding person and got recognized, those are things to include in that second paragraph. Paragraph 3. This is your opportunity to restate your interest in the position. State your readiness to start the position. Explain your value. Now, we haven't talked about this a lot, but I think it's really important. When I work with my college students, they often say things like, I'm really excited to start this job because it will grow my experience, it'll grow my skills, it will enhance my skills. You don't get hired to enhance your skills. Employers are looking for someone to fill a need. They have a job for you to do. So you want to always focus, remember your audience, and focus on what you bring to the position, not what the position can do for you or what you hope to gain. In that next paragraph, you also want to say that you've attached a copy of your resume for review. And then in this last sentence, I always say, how bold should I be? Instead of saying, I look forward to hearing from you, consider saying, I will follow up with you next week to see if you have any questions. If you do say, I'll follow up with you next week, make sure you do. Put it on your calendar and reach out and make that call or send that email. If you're looking at sales jobs where being proactive and more aggressive, I would definitely do that. I will follow up with you next week if you have any questions. Now, I was reading online, different places have different blogs and suggestions, and one of them even said, I'm available next week, these 3 dates, if you're interested in interviewing me. Now, I think that's extremely bold, but depending on the job and the position, that might be the way to go. You will only know that after you've done your research on the company, the position, and talk to people, your contacts on LinkedIn. That's how you find out that tone. Now, I always end with a sincerely or even a thank you for your consideration and a signature. I think a thank you for your consideration is nice because you're showing your appreciation for the time someone took to even look at your cover letter and resume. So I think that's a good tone for most resumes and cover letters. So The nuts and bolts, I call it. When you're writing your cover letter, you want to write really clearly and concisely. Just long sentences are not the way to go. People spend very little time, as much time as you spend writing your cover letter, people spend far less reading them. If they can't make sense out of what you're writing, it's not going to be read. And I'm not encouraging necessarily short, choppy sentences, but I am encouraging shorter, clearer sentences. As you read over your cover letter, make sure you're really clear on the value you would bring to the position. Remember, your tone should be professional. Don't exaggerate or add unnecessary information. It's great to grab the reader's attention, but you don't want to do that with sort of a weird hook. You want to come off as a professional. You want to demonstrate your confidence by demonstrating your abilities. And then finally, this goes back to the no apologies. Own your challenges, okay? But no apologies. Your tone should say, I'm ready to join the workforce and I'm a great fit. Sending your resumes and cover letters electronically. Send an email stating what position you're applying for. Use the subject line to identify the job title and reference number. Send your cover letter and resume as PDFs. And then name your cover letters and resumes when you attach them. You want to do your last name, first name, job title, the reference number, and then say it's the cover letter or say it's the resume. So when they're looking at the PDFs, they know exactly which ones they're pulling up. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at Kimberly@Tearless and if there's any questions.
Thank you, Kimberly. That was wonderful. So much useful information. So while you type in your questions now, we can address some of your questions right now. I want to make sure that you know about the I'm Back at Work Women's Only free Facebook group, and that I want to invite you to join us, where we support each other throughout the job search and throughout women's careers. You get daily tips for success, and you hear about open positions from companies that are excited to hire women. So just one more moment, we'll see what other questions we have coming up. Dana is asking how often a cover letter is actually read. So Dana, I can tell you from my experience in recruiting and HR that you often, if the resume is of no interest, your cover letter may not be read. But if there's even a bit of interest in your resume, then your cover letter can be what will tip it over from having some interest to being in the go-to pile or the no pile. So I definitely recommend writing the cover letter because it can make a big difference on the outcome, even if it's not always read. What would you say, Kimberly?
I agree. Just as a point of reference, I think people on average, recruiters and hiring managers, spend less than 30 seconds reading your resume. If your resume gets read, your cover letter will, and liked, your cover letter will get looked at. If the resume isn't strong enough to, I agree. I think the cover letter can weed you out if it's poorly written, but I think if someone likes your resume, it can make all the difference in the world.
We have a few more questions. So Rebecca is asking, I recently applied to a job online and the website only allowed to upload a resume, so I did not try to upload a cover letter as well. Did you see this often, and should I have tried?
If it's not allowing you to upload a cover letter and it's only looking for a resume, then I would assume there's not room. They're not going to let you upload it. You can always ask if they're interested, send an email and say, would they be interested in a cover letter? You can do that. But I think that's probably one of the exceptions when you don't need a cover letter. Now, if they contact you and you even do a very simple interview, whether it's electronically or anything, you want to follow up with a written thank you note. And the reason you want to do that is you want to take any opportunity to show that you are a good communicator, both in writing and verbally.
Vivek is asking, how do I find the keywords in the job description? And I think that in the beginning of the webinar, this is exactly what Kimberly was covering, to just go very, to read carefully and see the things that sort of stand out, and sometimes they stand out and they're repeated more than once. What else would you say, Kimberly?
I would really just go through a highlighter and look for specifics. Time management, organization, 3 years of experience, whatever skills that, and you'll know them when you see them, especially if it's an appropriate job posting for you. You'll know, oh, I need licensure, I need to be an RN, or I need a certain license for this, or I need a BS degree or an associate's degree, or I have to have Excel experience. Whatever it may be, you want to just highlight anything, and it's pay special attention to the ones where you have the corresponding experience, because those are really the ones you're going to want to highlight. And I want to reiterate again, you don't have to have every piece of experience in the posting. You just want to have a good bit of it. Okay, and if you have what you think are some of the important ones, but not all of them, you should still apply. Women tend to under apply because they want to have most, if not all, of the job skills or requirements, and it's really not necessary. You're just looking to have many of them. Okay.
So we have a few more questions. Radhika, she was commenting that it's interesting. She thought they read cover letters before resumes. Different recruiters may have different styles, but often there is a browse through the resumes very quickly. There's 6 seconds that they say that it usually takes to see if the key things stand out. And that is done first, but some may look through the cover letters. But I think usually it just the ATSs, they scan for those specific keywords that they're looking for first. Becky is asking, cover letters are quite dry and I feel for the ones reading them. I assume that this is not the time to entertain them, not like a personal statement for college. So Becky, I'll just throw something in there. I have to say that I've read cover letters where the first thing, it makes me smile or like they hook me in, but it's always in a positive way. So I'm not looking to be entertained. And it has to be serious and very relevant, that whatever you're writing has to be very relevant to why the recruiter would want to hire you. Kimberly, what would you add?
Well, I would say if you have a great hook that's professional and appropriate, feel free to use it. What I've laid out here is for the people who really, you need to send a cover letter, you need to show you're a good writer, and this is a format to help you get it done and get it done well. But if you have something you want to include that you think is relevant, that's great. But I think I even mentioned in my presentation, be careful of being strange or weird. You want to include things that are interesting and appropriate, but I can't tell you how many resumes I've read over the years where people include some inane thing, and it just even if you have a great resume, you kind of wonder at the appropriateness of this professional. And your job is not to entertain the recruiter or hiring manager. Your job is to get noticed because you have the skills or experience or knowledge to do the job well, that you will bring value. So that's the message you want to send. Not that you're going to be really fun to work with necessarily, but that you have the skills to help this employer and make their job easier.
Rebecca, you asked if Kimberly can share the examples that she gave. The easiest thing to do that is you can listen to the recording afterwards and you can pause and go over everything that you heard and take notes. So the recording will be available in about half an hour after the webinar. Okay, well, Kimberly, thank you again for this wonderful presentation. And thank you everybody for joining us, and I hope you join us again soon.
Thank you.